we go again?
Oh, no, not again.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Dom, how long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the bridge, dear friends.
Again and again and again until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews with connections in mind. Aladdin is this 2019's live-action remake of the original 1992 animated feature films, this time directed by Guy Ritchie and starring Will Smith as the genie, and as well as a host of other people. And this movie is essentially the exact same movie as the 1992 Disney feature film. And if you've seen this movie, you've seen this year's version of Aladdin. So that's why this is going to be a bit shorter of a movie, and this is your spoiler alert right up front. If you have not seen the 1992 the animated film Aladdin yet, and want to wait until you have, stop the video at this point and come back later. With this in mind, let's just talk about the 2019 version of Aladdin, because there really is only one fair comparison to be made with this film, and that is with its own animated film that it is essentially remaking. And I'm sorry that if that feels unfair, but you can't walk into, unless you're 4 years old and you've never seen this, the animated film, and you're walking into this is the first time you've seen Aladdin, there is absolutely no way that you can walk into this without thinking in your mind that this is with the original Aladdin in mind. Disney has marketed it as such. They've played on our nostalgia for the original movie in order for this. So there's really no excuse not to compare this film with the original, the animated film. But so, and with that in mind, how does it hold up? Well, I would say it's hit and miss, honestly. But right off the bat, I will say this is not the dumpster fire that everyone online was saying it was going to be when we saw those first shots of Will Smith as the genie with his creepy faces, even though, yes, those shots are in the film and they are a little creepy. But other than that, they're blink and you miss it moments. So with that being said, this film does do a fairly good job of retelling the same story, rearranging when necessary, keeping stuff when necessary, and keeping true where it absolutely has to stay true to the original film, and diverging when it has to, in order to make this still feel like a unique film, whereas while still maintaining the fact that it is a remake of the original Aladdin. I'm a very big fan of Guy Ritchie's style as a director. I've really liked him as the director of the two Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies, as well as The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which I believe is an underrated action spy film. And I saw that shine through a little bit with the scene in which Aladdin is being chased through the market and he's doing his little parkour thing. And especially when he ends up joining up with Jasmine, and they're running together. The way the camera shots are set up, the way the action flows in that particular scene, I thought was very Guy Ritchie, and he was able to shine through there, and that was probably the best scene from a directorial standpoint, I should say. Where this film also stays strong is that, like I said, Will Smith is now the genie because we no longer have Robin Williams with us to reprise the role. And as his own genie, he succeeds in making the genie his own, and he is able to infuse it with his own style. And I think that he's a perfectly good genie in this. For this story, I would not swap the two, Robin Williams and Will Smith, with their versions of the genies with the animated film. Like, I would not do that. Robin Williams works best in the animated form, and Will Smith, I feel, works really well as the genie in the live action version. However, where the movie falls flat, and I hate to say it, those are the main positives of this film, is really the reason why I haven't been doing a lot of the the live-action Disney remakes. I've been avoiding them recently. I've tried to keep an open mind with Dumbo, and now this. It just feels soulless. This is a soulless remake, I feel. It's entertaining to look at, yes, but there's many instances where this feels like a stage adaptation, a stage play version, which obviously they can't go all out like you can in animation. However, there are certain instances, like for example, while this version of "Gotta Have a Friend Like Me" works really well in this movie as well as the original. When the first film that featured Aladdin singing his one step ahead of the bread line or whatever, that song appears in this version as well. However, it just feels like he's trying really hard to remember his lines, and there's no emotion at all in that while he's singing this. And the whole point of that scene in the original was that was essentially the first time we saw Aladdin as the character, and that song was our way of introducing the audience to the character, getting a sense for who he is and how he lives his life how he lived his life prior to us seeing him for the very first time, and that gave us all the context we needed before going into the main story where he meets Princess Jasmine. This time, he meets Princess Jasmine first, and she goes along with him during that sequence, and it doesn't quite fit, I feel. The other example I would point to is the Whole New World, which I will say it is sung beautifully. They both have good voices, and if it was just on the album, I'd say an audio version on the album, I would say that is sung very well. However, the scene itself is a complete flop because I thought it was probably the most clumsy way that they could possibly segue into that with the dialogue, especially when Jasmine says, "These maps are are all the world to me, and I can't go out to it." And Aladdin says, "Well, there's a lot of world out there. Why can't I show it to you?" It's like, really? That's how we're gonna go for it? And also, the reason why A Whole New World works so well in the animated film is because we are close up to the characters, we can actually see the characters, and it's a romantic song. We get to see them interact with one another. We get to see them go through many, many things, like Jasmine ruffling the mane of the running horses, them waving to the guy who knocks the nose off the Sphinx. These are great moments, and we get to see them do these things together. In this version, as I said, it's sung beautifully, but the camera is kept fairly far away from everything, and we don't get very close to the faces. And when we do get close, we see them. It really looks like they're just singing along and trying really hard to memorize the lines and sing it perfectly. That's how it looks. And even when the moment where it says "Don't you dare close your eyes," it's a blink and you miss it moment. You don't get very close to them, and it doesn't feel like you don't see Jasmine's face and the wonder she sees in this new world until the very end when they're hovering above Agrabah. It doesn't work in this version. I'm sorry. It sounds lovely, but the emotion is stripped from it, and that's how I feel like the rest of the movie. It's pretty to look at. The stuff with the genie is great for the most part, but it's just very much not, the emotion is stripped from it. And while I will say the stuff that they do change for this film, they did add a couple of new songs, and they did a reprisal of a sort of remix of Riff Raff Street Rats near the end. Jasmine gets 2 new songs in this version. The first one is okay. I would say that it suits her character, and I thought that while, again, she doesn't feel very emotional, it's sung beautifully, and she has a nice voice, but that's it. And then probably the one that everyone's going to be talking about is probably the most standout new song addition to this version is the "I Will Not Stay Silent" song. I think that's what it's called. I don't remember, but I don't know what the title is. But yeah, I call it the "I Will Not Stay Silent" song, and it just feels like a song that was calculated to be a chart topper. That's what it feels like, because the scene itself, it's for some reason, you don't realize that it's all happening in her head in the beginning, and then when it does happen, it just feels like a music video, and it comes out of nowhere, it feels like, and it's like, I understand why it's here, but it doesn't really serve anything. It could have just very easily have been, you could have cut that song out entirely, and you could have just gone from her, Jasmine, being escorted out of the throne room or whatever, looking towards the back into the throne room to where Jafar is, and then just cut to her turning around and defying Jafar and saying these things. That would be fine. That would be the moment. You could show it on her face, that moment, that determination. Instead, we have to have a song number, and it's sung fine, although at certain points it seems like she's just kind of screaming it and not really singing it. And instead, the whole problem with this the transition from live action to animation is, with animation, you get a lot of facial reactions range out of your hand-drawn characters, and it looks very. You can go all out in your showing of emotion. The actor and actress who play Aladdin and Jasmine in the live-action version, I'm sure they're trying, but it just feels like their facial range of emotion is kind of stuck in a very limited range. They're wearing mostly the same expression for about 3/4 of the film, I would say, and it just doesn't feel like a emotion-filled performance from either of them at certain points. And I'll just keep coming back to it. This is one, it just feels emotionless. It's an entertaining to look at. They're fun sequences, especially, like I said, the Fun Like Me is done pretty well. I will say that. This just feels like an emotionless movie, and if I'm going to give it a letter grade, I would give it a solid C+. It did its job, but I couldn't really see it as a emotion-filled movie, and I do not recommend seeing this in theaters. And I also don't recommend you buy it on Blu-ray or any digital services when it comes out. Try to watch it for free somewhere, legally, of course. Watch it in that rate. I do not support this effort by Disney to suck the life out of its own properties, and neither should you. So those are my thoughts on the live action Aladdin. But what did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Again, I didn't write, my analysis was mainly focused on the comparisons between the live action and animated Aladdins, but I will say there is nothing new under the sun, and yes, you have seen it before. So there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my review next week, which will be for Godzilla, King of the Monsters. So be sure to look for that. Thank you for watching. Take care.